Hi boys and girls, this is Mrs. Hull and I'm here with your math lesson today. It is Math Expressions, Unit 2, Lesson 9. Our objective today is I can compare and analyze methods of multiplication. So when I compare and analyze things, that means I take a careful look at them and figure out what things are similar and what things are different. And as you know, we have been learning about different ways to multiply things over the past few days, and now we're going to really look at them and see how they work and improve our knowledge of how multiplication really works. So let's get going. We'll start by moving to the first slide and our first equation. So this is actually the equation we're going to be working on for the whole lesson. So we've got 9 times 28, which is a 1-digit by a 2-digit multiplication equation. So in the very first place, we learned that we can draw an area model to figure out how to do multiplication or to find a product in a multiplication problem. So let's go ahead and draw this rectangle. You can see it's a rectangle that's been divided here, and it's divided because I want a tens section and a ones section. So when I do an area model or I use it to do multiplication, I always take my 1-digit factor and I place it here on the side. And then next, I take my 2-digit factor and divide it into the tens and the ones. So we're going to place our 20, that's how many tens I have, 2 tens equals 20 over the tens box, and then I'm going to place my 8 over the ones box. Now, to find area, I know that I multiply the height times the width of a rectangle, and then I can find what is here inside of it. So let's go ahead and write this problem right inside this box. 9 times 20, that will give us the area of that rectangle. Now we're going to drag this 9 all the way over here because it's going to help us find the area of this rectangle, and we can find that area by doing 9 times 8. So now let's do a little bit of multiplication. Now we know that when we're using multiples of 10, we can use a little trick. I would say it's a trick, but it's not a trick. It's just the way we would multiply. So we're going to think of this 20, instead of thinking of it as 20, we're going to think of it as 10 or 2 tens. So we're going to multiply this 9 by this 2 tens. And so really what we're doing here, excuse me, let me get a little pen. We'll pick a blue. Really what we're doing is we're going to multiply this 9 times 2. Sorry about my messy mouse writing. 9 times 2, and then we're going to multiply the 10. We've taken the 10 right out of it. You may have seen this earlier in our math lesson. So this is what we're going to do, but it's going to be a lot easier than that. We're just going to do 9 times 2 equals 18. And then we're going to do the 1 times 10 is 10. And then when we do 18 times 10, it's going to equal 180. And if you know that this is how it works, there's even a niftier way to do this little shortcut. You can just do 9 times 2 equals 18, and then just drag this 0 right down here because it's the same thing as doing times 10. because 18 times 10 is equal to 180. All right, so now let's move over here to the 9 times the 8. 9 times 8, if I know my multiplication facts, I know that that is 72. Now we've got our 180 and our 72, and this wasn't supposed to appear over here yet, but you can see that we're going to now add the 180 and the 72 to get our total product, because we have partial products right now. We have a product of the tens and a product of the ones that need to be added together to get a total product. So right here we're going to add them. 0 plus 2 is 2. 8 plus 7 is 15. I'm going to put my 5 down here and my 1 up there. 1 plus 1 is 2. Just use the standard algorithm for addition. So our answer to 9 times 28 is 252. Remember that number because we're going to do this problem now in multiple methods. We're going to look at how this problem can be done in many ways. So here's our area model that we just did on our last page, and we're going to compare this area model to 4 different ways that we can do this multiplication problem. So let's start out with method A. Method A is the full expanded notation method. And we're just going to match up the things that are written in method A to what we've done in our area model. So let's find us a little pen over here. Let's start with a green one. So first of all, in method A, we have broken up our 28 and made it a 20 plus 8. So we've written it here, and I can see that I've done the same thing right here on top of my rectangles. After that, we have separated our 9 and we moved our 9 over to here. And you can see that I've got my 9 separated right here. So we've got 20 plus 8 and then 9. And now we've written the 9 times 20 equals 180 here. We've got a 9 times 20 equals 180. And then in the other box, we've got a 9 times 8 equals 72. We can find that right there. And then finally, we can add up our partial products to find a total product. And those are the same, and they both equal 252, just like on the last page. So you can see that this method A is all it is a written representation of this area model. Every single part of it is in this expanded notation method. So now we're going to move to our next method, which looks very much like method A, except for you can see that I haven't written down these multiplication problems, this little bit of multiplication. Now I'm going to, if I can graduate from this method to this method, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remember, instead of writing it down, I'm just going to remember that first I'm going to multiply 20 times 9. Whoops. Sorry, my pen's gone haywire there. Let's let it go away. Okay, 20 times 9. And over here, I'm doing my 20 times 9. And that equals 180. And then I'm going to do my 9 times 8, but I didn't write it down. I just did 9 times 8. And on this side, I can do 9 times 8, and it equals 72. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my addition. I'm just going to add my partial products and find my total product, which is, again, 252. So the difference between my method A and my method B is that I'm doing a little bit of mental math. I'm remembering that I'm doing this and I'm doing this without writing it down. So now let's move to our next method, which looks quite a bit different than these other two. However, if you're careful, if you look at this carefully and analyze it, you can see that if I just kind of cross out all this stuff on method B and move this over, it pretty much looks like method C. So we're doing a little more mental math in method C. So this time I'm not writing this down. I'm just going to do 9 times 20 equals 180. And here you go. 9 times 20 equals 180. And then I'm going to do 9 times 8 equals 72. And that's right here. 9 times 8 equals 72. So method C. Oh, and then of course we have to do our adding of our partial products to get our answer, which is again 252. So you can see method C has everything method B and method A have. It just requires a little more mental math. But if you know how to do method A really well and method B really well, then you probably don't have to write this part anymore and you can move to method C. So then our very last method that we're going to compare right now is method D. And it is exactly like method C, except we're going to do this one this time. We're going to multiply our ones first. So we've got 9 times 8 equals 72, and you can see that right here. And then we're going to multiply 9 times 20 and make it 180, which it totally is. And there is 9 times 20 is 180. And then we're going to add our partial products and get the answer 252. Now, you might wonder why we would even do method D since we just did method C, which looks pretty much the same. But you'll see that when we do our shortcut method, which we're going to learn very soon, we always multiply the ones first and then the tens. So that's method D is just getting us into the habit of multiplying ones first and then tens. So let's move to our next slide. Okay, so we're going to compare these methods. We've got method A, method B, method C, method D. We're going to analyze them now and compare them. So how are all these methods similar? List at least 2 similarities. So you probably have some really great ideas, and if you have ideas that are different than mine, I would like you to write them down on your page so that I can see them, because I really love to see kids' ideas of how things are similar and different. But how I thought about this, I thought one way that they're similar is that we are doing the same equation in every single one of them. So that's one similarity that I saw. And then the next similarity that I saw is that we are always multiplying the ones and the tens separately. In every single one, we multiplied them separately. So that is similar for each. So then now we're going to look at how they're different. So one way I thought that they were different is that I thought that some of them required a lot more writing than others. And you can just see that. I mean, this is a lot more writing than these. The next way I thought they were different is, that we do more mental math in some. And you can see that's true because we have to remember that we're multiplying the ones and the tens separately in these 2 problems. Then my last way that I thought is that in D, we multiply the ones first. And that's way different than all of the other 3 that we've done. So now we are going to learn the shortcut method. So this is what we call the shortcut method. And it is the way that most of your parents know how to do multiplication. So you may have already seen this, especially if you brought some homework home and they didn't know how to do the way that you were learning. They might have tried to show you this, and that's just fine because we want everyone to know the shortcut method also. But we have shown you lots of different methods so that you'll really know how multiplication works. So we as 4th grade teachers are so proud of the depth of your knowledge right now on how multiplication works. I hope that you show your parents and teach them how multiplication works because many of them don't know. They just know the shortcut method and they don't really understand how it works. So let's go ahead and do this shortcut method now. Let me make sure I've got a pen. So first of all, we're going to do everything we did in the other methods except for we're doing it mentally. So we know in method D that we wanted to multiply the ones first. So we're going to multiply 9 times 8. And we know that 9 times 8 is 72. We've done it a whole bunch of times in this lesson. But instead of writing the 72 all together like this, like we usually write it, we're going to write the 2 underneath the ones because it's a 1. Right? It's in the ones column, so we're writing it right underneath the 8s and the 9s because they're all ones. And then instead of writing the 7 down here, we're going to go ahead and write a teeny tiny 7. And I guess if you wanted, you could write a teeny tiny 7 here, but I prefer to write it here. So I'm going to write a teeny tiny 7 above the 10s because the 7 is in the 10s place. In place value. But one thing I'm going to add to this 7 is I'm going to add a little tiny plus sign. That's going to remind me to do something important later. Okay, so now I've taken care of my 1s. Now I'm going to multiply my 10s. And I'm going to do it kind of like we did before when we were multiplying in our area model box or any of the other places. I'm going to multiply the 9 times the 2 and think of it as an 18. Even though it's 18 tens, I'm just going to think 18. And then after I multiply my 9 times my 2 and get my 18, I'm going to add 7 to it. So let's just count up. We have 18 and then we're going to add 7. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Okay, so I have 25 and I'm going to write my 25 underneath here, the 2 in the 100s column, the 5 in the 10s column. And oh my goodness, we have got the same answer that we got in every other method except for we only wrote one row of numbers underneath and a little tiny 7 up here. So this is the shortcut method, and I hope that you have enjoyed learning it, and I hope you'll watch this part of the video again and again so that you can understand how to do it. Because next of all, let's see what we're going to do on our next slide. Oh, we're going to discuss right now, before we practice, we're going to discuss again where the 72 and the 180 are in this shortcut method because I can't see them very easily. So let's discuss where they are. So first of all, you know, because we just did it, that the 72 is written right here. We've got the 7 and the 2, 72. And in this one, when we multiplied the 7 times the 2, we wrote a little tiny 7 here, a little 2. So maybe you chose that. You might choose that. Some people's brains like that better. My brain likes this better, and so I tend to do this. The next thing we did was we multiplied the tens, and that is right here. And we multiplied 9 times 2, and we got 180, and then we added the 7. So right here we did 9 times 2. We got 18 or 180, and 18, and then we added the 7, and when we did 18 plus 7, we got this 25 right here. So our 180 is hiding inside of that 250 right there, because the 180, we added 70 to it and got 250, and then we added the 2 ones to it, and we had 252. So let's see how I wrote this on here. You can do it any way you would like, but first of all, I explained about the ones. Come on. There we go. So I said, and you can write this any way you would like, or you can use my words. I can see the 72 because the 2 is under the ones column, and the 7 is placed above or below the tens column. So that's how I explained where the 72 was. And then next I explained where the 180 was. It was a little harder to explain. I put it is harder to see 180, but it is made up by multiplying 9 by 2 tens and then adding the 7 tens from the 72 to it. And so that's how I explained it. If you have a better way, I would really like to see your explanation, because I like to see how kids are thinking. So now, what method is best for you? We've got 8 problems here. If you choose, you can do them in lots of different methods. We've got 5 different methods now, so you could try all 5 methods out here and then pick the one you like best, or maybe you already know which method you like best for today, and you're going to just do all of them in that method. You do what feels right for you. We're aiming for correct answers, so the way that you understand is the best way. After you are finished and you have shown all of your work for a problem, if you have permission from your parent, then you can check to see if you got your problem right by using a calculator. But please make sure that you have shown all of your work, because if you just write answers down, your teacher will probably think you just used a calculator. You need to show all of your work for your problem solving. At the end, you can see that we have a check understanding, and you may have the tools where you could make a video, just maybe like this one. Maybe you could make some sort of video that explains any method that you would like step by step, and solve this problem right here, 34 times 37. You can either choose to show that through a video or in writing, where you write step 1 and then step 2. Whatever way that you can show it is a great way. I look forward to seeing your work, and I hope that you've enjoyed the lesson and that you have a great remote learning day.